Welcome back. This is the third video in the Ruby with Claude series. In this video, we'll explore three key natural language processing task techniques: sentiment analysis, named entity recognition, and text summarization. And I'll show you how to perform these techniques using Claude, Ruby, and the Anthropic API. In the previous two videos, I introduced you to Anthropic's Claude, how to get an API key, how to call the API in a Rails app using Claude Ruby Gem, and we covered off some of the options and how to conduct conversations with Claude. If you're finding this series useful, then please remember to subscribe below if you haven't already done so. Right, on to our current topic of natural language processing, tasks with Claude and Ruby. Natural language processing, or NLP for short, provides several techniques that are important for understanding and extracting valuable insights from text data, making them invaluable in fields like customer service, content creation, and data analysis. Claude is a powerful language model that can perform a variety of natural language processing tasks. And using the Anthropic API and Claude Ruby Gem, we can leverage NLP tasks within our own applications. Sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis is the process of determining the emotional tone behind a series of words. It helps identify and extract subjective information from text, which is particularly useful for understanding customer opinions, feedback, and social media sentiment. Some applications of sentiment analysis are analyzing customer reviews to understand product feedback, monitoring social media to gauge public opinion on a topic, evaluating the sentiment of news articles or blog posts, using Claude for sentiment analysis. Claude can be used to classify the sentiment of text as positive, negative, or neutral. I'm going to show you how to do this with Claude and Ruby. But first, let's refactor the AI agent class from our earlier tutorials to make it more expandable. Previously, we created an AI agent class with three methods specific to Claude. Now I'm going to change AI agent into a module, and I'm going to create a base class within that module. Now we'll remove those earlier methods out of AI agent and into a new Claude class that inherits from AI agent. Back to the base class, I'll add some methods that we expect the subclasses to override, and I'll also add an attribute accessor for agent. This is going to allow us to create AI agents for different providers in the future. Okay, back to the Claude class. First, we're going to require the Claude client from the Claude Ruby Gem, and we'll add a constant called Claude. Now we'll implement the methods that we defined in the base class. And we'll move things around a bit to make some of the methods private. Now when we want a Claude AI agent, we can get one like this: AI agent equals AI agent Claude.new. Okay, now on to the sentiment analysis example. Example 1. Analyzing the sentiment of a customer review. Let's say we have a customer review like this, and we want to know whether it has a positive, neutral, or negative sentiment. In order for Claude to classify the sentiment, we'll have to pass it a prompt something like this: analyze the sentiment of the following text and classify it as positive, negative, or neutral. Add the text and add another snippet. Sentiment. The way we're going to send this prompt to Claude is we'll create an analyze sentiment method on our AI agent base class. We'll have that method prepare the prompt and any options, and then call the send messages method on our Claude class, which is a subclass of base. Now I'm adding in an extra parameter called strict here. It's purely optional, but the reason I'm going that is because Claude tends to give quite wordy responses unless you guide it to be direct. If we're going to run the sentiment analysis many times on different sets of data, then aggregate the results, then we'll want to get consistent messages out of Claude. On the other hand, if you're running it on just one or two examples, then it can be helpful to get the wordy response, as it helps you to understand how Claude came to its final result. We'll set the default value of strict to true. You can see that send messages passes two parameters, being a messages array and an options hash. In our Claude class, the send messages method takes those parameters and passes them through to Claude Ruby Gem's messages method to get the desired result. In the future, if we want to use a different client, then it will require a different API call. So we'd be able to structure it differently for each agent in their own agent classes. Now here's the full set of commands we'll use to send the result to Claude and to get back a sentiment response. And we can see that Claude tells us the sentiment is positive, as expected. We could do a similar example to analyze the abstract of a technical paper or a blog post. This time we'll set strict to false, so you can see the wordy response that Claude replies with. For one more example of sentiment analysis, we'll analyze an array of short social media posts and return an array of hashes, with each row containing the post and the sentiment. And you can see that Claude has done a good job of classifying each post correctly. Named entity recognition. Another use of NLP is named entity recognition, or NER for short. Named entity recognition is the process of identifying and classifying named entities in text into predefined categories, such as names of people, organizations, locations, dates, etc. Some applications of NER are extracting key information from news articles, identifying entities in legal documents, and enhancing search engine accuracy by recognizing specific entities. Here's how we can use Claude to identify and classify named entities in a given text. Example: extracting entities from a news headline. Let's say we're working on a project that needs to extract named entities from news headlines so that some statistical analysis can be done for certain entities over time. If we have a headline like this, then we'll need a prompt for Claude to instruct it to extract the named entities for us. Something like, identify and list the named entities in the following text. As for our earlier examples, we'll create a new method on AI agent, which will handle sending the prompt and options to Claude to get back the response that we need. We'll call it recognized on entities. We'll generate the prompt along with the input text, which is a news headline in our example. And like before, we'll create a strict version that aims to minimize any waffle in the response from Claude. Now to call this method, we can do the following. And we get back a list of named entities from Claude. You could do something similar for an entire news article or an entirely different domain, such as scanning legal documents. Text summarization. As you'd expect, text summarization is the process of condensing a piece of text into its essential points, making it shorter while retaining its core meaning. Some applications of text summarization are summarizing long research papers or articles, creating concise summaries of lengthy emails or reports, and providing brief overviews of books or documents, using Claude for text summarization, Claude is great at processing long texts and summarizing them into something shorter, making them easier to understand. Here's how. Again, we'll need a prompt for Claude and a method on AI agent to prepare the prompt and pass it on to Claude. The prompt is pretty simple this time. Just something like, summarize the following text. We'll put that into a method called summarize text, again with an optional strict version. Now it's a simple matter of calling the summarize text method with the long text that we want to summarize. Example, summarizing a research paper. In this example, we'll get Claude to summarize a 2-paragraph research paper abstract into just a couple of sentences or so. I won't read through the abstract, but you can see that it's a good 2 paragraphs long. We'll use the strict form of the summarize text method, like so. And we get a much shorter, summarized version of the abstract, which is easier to read. In this tutorial, we've explored how to use Claude for the common NLP tasks of sentiment analysis, named entity recognition, and text summarization. These techniques can greatly enhance your ability to process and understand large volumes of text data. Experiment with these techniques and play around with the example code to discover new ways to apply them in your projects. Please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time where we'll start building an actual application using Claude and Ruby.